What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining. Hope you are having a great one today. As always, as you can probably tell from this, we are looking at the Zombie Hunter Spiderman from the Marvel Studios What If series. Now, this is the 6-scale figure made by Hot Toys. The box is absolutely gorgeous. I did open them up, as you can see there. So I'm just going to kind of do a quick look at the box. I apologize that it is probably not the best view in the world. I was, like I said, doing the unboxing for it, and I noticed something that I was not a huge fan of, that I didn't think the lighting was picking up very well. So I decided to just kind of move it over into here, and that way we can get a little bit better of a look-see at it. Now the figure looks super cool, so that I will say is awesome, and you do get cape, which is great. But one of the problems with, I'm going to hopefully demonstrate. So we're just going to go ahead and bend his arm there, and we'll come back to that in just a couple of minutes. So the head sculpt itself, absolutely gorgeous. There you go. You can give him a little peck. And they did do a really cool job designing the actual outfit. It looks really, really good. Very, very close to the animated series as far as the coloring goes. The actual look of it is phenomenal. I was very impressed with that. But the material that they use is kind of a weird sort of vinyl, is almost what it feels like, and I am not a big fan of it. So one thing that I noticed right away, on this side, you can see some really clear stitching there. I'm guessing this is probably the last area that they sealed up on the suit, but it is just incredibly noticeable on that side. On this side, not so much. It's kind of more of an up-close tiny stitch. So I'm guessing this was done initially, then once they got it on the figure, they kind of sealed it up there. So it just kind of stands out really bad, especially depending on the angle. And I've looked at a couple other photos, and it seems to be pretty consistent on most of them. So I don't think it's just a flaw with this particular one. I think that's just kind of how they ended up being designed. Now you do get cape, which is one of the big reasons I got this. He is attached by magnet. There's a couple little magnets in there, a Spidey. So he'll stick on him very, very easily. It is also wired, so you can move it to other figures without too much of a problem. But you're not going to have the advantage of those little metal clasps, which I don't think it'll make too much of a difference. I am going to play around with it some. I did put it on Spider-Gwen real quick just to see how that looked. It was funny, but didn't stay on as easily and securely as with this one for obvious reasons. Now the suit does give a decent amount of mobility, so you can, in theory, pose him all over the place, which is good. Does have the double jointed knee there, and I love that they actually articulated the foot but then still did a solid boot. That I thought was really, really cool. All of that was fantastic. But, and this is the part that I'm hoping will show up well. So earlier when I was playing around with them, I bent the elbow and just kind of left it for a few moments. I'm not sure if you can see, but it kind of left a crease there, which is kind of minuscule. Not that important, but in the little bit of time that it was here, you got kind of a bunch of little cracks and stuff. Now, I do think that as the figure sits, those will go away, I hope. But it was just kind of concerning to sort of see it right from the get-go. So we'll kind of come back to that in a couple of minutes once we're done with looking at all the accessories and see if it did clear up much. But it looks to me like anytime you put him in a really sort of extreme pose of any sort, you're going to have probably some significant crinkling on the suit. And if that holds for a long period of time, I think it's going to be that much harder for it to wear out. So we'll kind of leave that there. We'll take a look in a moment and see if it's gone away and cleared up any. I kind of have a feeling that might just be an effect of the material that the suit is. Now, I don't own any of the other Spider-Man, normal Spider-Man, Spider-Mans. I don't know how you would pluralize that. I guess Spider-Man. this particular guy. I don't own any other ones of him, so I'm not sure how the other suits compare. The Spider-Gwen one is a completely different material, and I think the Miles Morales one is as well, but I haven't gotten him in yet to play with, so I'm not too sure. But so far, that's kind of my one big complaint for the most part, and I think it is sort of a big one. So that does kind of worry me a bit. Again, we'll come back to it shortly and see if that, maybe my mind will be changed. He does have a couple different sets of eyes, but they are very, very, very difficult to deal with. So I believe you sort of have to ply them onto the head and then slap them in there. That should be magnetic to help hold them into place, but they're in there so securely that there wasn't really a good way for me to kind of pull them out to actually take a look at, and I didn't really want to mess around with them too much. You also, as you can see, get a ton of different hands. We'll slide it up a little bit there. These are basically just slightly opened fists, so you can have them holding the web. Ta-da! But then you get a couple open sets, and then you get the web shooting hands, which they did a kind of cool feature too. I do want to go over one really, really nitpicky thing. And hopefully you'll be able to see it on this. On a lot of them, they didn't completely paint in between the fingers, which I realize is super tiny and really not a significant complaint at all. But if you're kind of a perfectionist, and if that sort of thing bothers you, some of them, they're definitely off by quite a bit. So that was a little bit of a bummer in some regards. Again, not too big of a deal, but it was something that I just sort of noticed right away when playing with them. Now with the actual web shooting hand, what they did, if I can get it out, is pretty dang neat. And again, I don't own any of the other standard Spider-Man, so I'm not sure if this is a typical thing, but you essentially get a replacement piece for his palm. So you can separate, if I can actually get in there to get it. Probably not. Well, you get the idea, hopefully. That part of his palm pops out, and then you would replace it with this part. That way he can be shooting his little webs, which I thought was a really neat way to do it. It clearly was a little trickier than I had hoped, and I don't really want to try and force it at this particular moment, so we're just going to leave it at that so you can kind of see what it was supposed to do. He does come with the dynamic stand, so in theory you can pose him a whole bunch of different ways, but again, kind of have that worry about the suit, so we'll see how that's looking in just a moment. And then they do load you up with a ton of different web pieces, which I'm not going to take all of them out because they're pretty... Once you see one, you kind of see them all. But you got a whole bunch of different sizes. One that's got sort of more of an L shape to it. You can kind of do a little whip with that. He does have a much longer one that's a little looped. Kind of got more of the McFarlane spaghetti style, which I like. And then he does have this guy up here, so if you wanted him splashing anybody, you definitely could. So that I thought was cool. If you want to see a close-up of this real quick. Yeah, it's going to be a pain, but there you go. And I do like the spider design that they did. I'll be curious to see how the Ultron one looks. I think that'll be pretty neat. Definitely looking forward to that one. Alright, so now kind of the moment of truth. I want to see if that arm cleaned up a little bit, and at first glance it looks like it might have, so... well, maybe not. So you can still kind of see some creasing there. It honestly just really worries me about him holding any crazy pose over a long period of time. You can kind of see the mark on the one, and that was, maybe 20 minutes ago, give or take. So I do worry about that a little bit, which for me, hindsight being 2020, if I knew that was going to be a thing, I probably would have looked into getting a different one. Definitely not the campus one. I'm not crazy. Which, if you're not familiar, there is the new Disney campus version of Spider-Man that is selling for a large amount money on the eBays. I would not recommend getting that one either. Definitely one to avoid in my opinion, but hey, you do you. This one I do like, predominantly because of Cape. He does look awesome when he's just kind of standing still, like the actual presence and color of him is beautiful. So I am happy with it in that regards. But as far as doing any like really crazy, wild, sort of fun poses with him, I just don't think the suit is going to hold up over time. So that's kind of the biggest concern that I have, and I haven't had that with a lot of other figures. Some of them I definitely think are going to wear, but I haven't had one that almost immediately shows creasing. I mean, that's, it was bent for, I don't know, maybe 6-7 minutes right there, and you can kind of see it at that point. So just be mindful of that. Maybe if you're thinking about getting a Spider-Man, unless you really want a cape, might want to consider some of the other options. To be fair, I don't have a Doctor Strange or any intent of getting one, so that was sort of my only option for getting cape, which I'm a big fan of. It'll be fun to play with that at least. But that'll do it for this one. Hopefully have some other Hot Toys cracking open this week. I did get the Chrome Clone Trooper in, and I still got to do Batman, Superman, and a bunch of other stuff, so we'll get to those when we can. You know me, I'm lazy, but thanks so much as always. I hope you guys have a great one.